Hi, everybody. I'm Brian Kenny, and welcome to ESPN Classic's Top 5 Reasons You Can't Blame. There's no doubt Barry Bonds is one of the best baseball players ever. But in recent years, fans and media types have ripped into the MVP for alleged steroid use in his assault on Henry Aaron's home run record. The furor is just the latest chapter in what has been a strained relationship with the fans, his fellow players, and the media. In this show, we'll give you the top 5 reasons why you can't blame Barry Bonds for being Barry Bonds. But first, let's take a look at his career and how he alienated so many people over the years.
Deep to right field. This one is on its way to McCormick Cone.
When Barry Bonds gets up to the plate, you stop what you're doing. You watch the guy bat because you never know when you're going to be seeing history.
Do you believe it? It's gone. There's a new one.
Two things about Barry Bonds are astounding. Number one, he never swings and misses. Number two, every ball he hits hard.
That's the furthest ball I've ever seen hit.
Barry Bonds is one of the top 5 players that's ever played this game.
There's nothing on the ball field that this guy couldn't do. He's essentially a genius.
Back. Play. He caught it.
He played the game as hard as anybody that I've ever seen.
And what a catch by Bonds.
You look at the stolen bases, you look at the runs scored, the walks, the RBIs, the way he's played Gold Glove defense. We're looking at one of the greatest players that ever played the game.
No question in my mind that he's the greatest baseball player of my time.
The statistics back up the claim. With 7 MVPs, 8 Gold Gloves, 2 batting titles, and more home runs than anyone in Major League history, Bonds has been in a league of his own. His crowning summer was 2001, when he set fire to the record book. His .863 slugging average was the highest in history, and so were his 73 home runs.
It was one of the greatest years anybody ever had, not just the home runs. Look at the RBIs, look at the batting average, add it up.
Stretch rather than winding up. Oh, it's deep to right field. Way back. He's missed the wire. There's a new record holder. The single season mark is 71. Barry Bonds has the title.
Despite his mammoth accomplishments, Bonds has left a trail of burned bridges across the landscape of the American game. From Pittsburgh to San Francisco and just about every major league stop along the way, respect for his ability is clouded by resentment.
Barry Bonds has offended a lot of baseball people and baseball fans.
Get that camera out. Today.
He had a chip on his shoulder, and I think his relationship with the media reflected that.
Yeah, I've interviewed Barry Bonds. You know what? He's a jerk. He's condescending. He intimidates the hell out of you.
When your closet's clean, then come clean somebody else's.
I have heard and seen moments where I thought he should be slapped.
You don't tell who the comes to my face. All right? You don't say it. I say it.
Nobody should treat anybody like that. I don't care who you are.
I remember seeing Bonds talking to about 30 reporters, and at one point, he looked up at all of us and said, you know what? You guys, if you got something, then write it. Otherwise, shut the up. And that was pretty much his attitude.
And that's the thing about him. There's no joy. And how can there not be joy? You're playing baseball, and you're making amazing amounts of money. What's the problem?
In 1991, Bonds hurled his abuse beyond the media to his manager, Pittsburgh's Jim Leland.
Nobody's gonna come over to me and tell me back to what you do with those
And in 2002, TV cameras caught him trading punches with Giants teammate Jeff Kent.
He wasn't the best teammate. He was a guy that would be off on his own, and his 0-for-4 performance was one that cast him over in the corner away from the team, even if it was a 9th-inning victory.
Barry Bonds has never lifted a team to a higher level. Never, ever, ever. A lot of guys I interviewed for the book said that he was a negative because he has this Darth Vader sort of presence in the corner of the clubhouse.
For all his swagger and smack, Bonds usually delivered, except when it counted most.
He would talk a lot about everything he's going to do in the postseason, then he wouldn't do it.
You know, really, to be honest, I feel more confident this year than I did last year and the previous years.
He pops it up. Bonds is 0 for 3 and 2 for 13.
He sucked in the playoffs. I mean, he was horrible.
there was always some excuse for why he wasn't producing. And again, it was another thing that just drove his teammates crazy. Because there's nothing worse than a superstar without accountability.
Concerned that this slump and so forth is going to continue through the series.
What slump?
Same thing that happened last year.
Who's slump?
Your slump, your batting slump.
I don't have a slump.
He was abusive to fans, abusive to teammates, abusive to his manager. He didn't perform in the postseason. He had a very, very bad attitude. He was hard to like, and all of that was tough enough.
The San Francisco Chronicle sent shockwaves through the sports world on Tuesday when it reported that Barry Bonds received steroids and human growth hormones from Balco.
Some of the things he had accomplished should not have been accomplished. That is the cross he'll have to bear now for a long, long time.
Even when faced with well-documented steroid allegations, Bonds has remained true to his antagonistic self by blaming the messengers for the bad news.
All you guys lied. All of y'all.
You guys wanted to hurt me bad enough, you finally got there.
How much testing do you welcome in baseball?
They test me every day if they choose to.
He takes zero responsibility. He pinpoints the media as the targets. I am convinced that he's convinced himself that he's done nothing wrong.
I can't imagine what it must be like being the PR director for the San Francisco Giants.
The cloud that's hung over Bonds for the past couple of years will hang over his head for the rest of his life.
Everybody in baseball may not say this on camera, but they're counting the minutes till he goes away.
You've seen the case against Bonds and how he has repeatedly rubbed people the wrong way. But before we give you our top 5 reasons why you can't blame him, here are a few reasons that didn't make the short list. We call them the best of the rest.
And Slyke going
Andy Van Slyke.
He leads and got it.
Bonds' whole career in Pittsburgh can be defined in many ways by his jealousy of Andy Van Slyke.
They signed Andy Van Slyke to a lucrative long-term contract for money not much less than it would have taken to keep Barry Bonds.
But this guy couldn't run like Bonds. This guy didn't have Bonds' power. This guy was not a 5-tool player. Barry Bonds is a 5-tool player.
After the Pirates signed center fielder Andy Van Slyke to a multi-year contract extension with a significant raise, Bonds won his first MVP award with a .301 batting average, 33 homers, and 114 RBIs. Although he clearly outperformed Van Slyke and everyone else in the league, Pittsburgh management refused to extend Bonds' contract.
It stunned Barry. He was bitter. He saw other guys getting taken care of, guys who certainly weren't as integral to the club as he was.
He's the core. He's the star. He's the future Hall of Famer. He's the guy you got to hold on to. Well, they made no effort to do that.
Is there justifiable bitterness from Barry Bonds? No question about it, because they did not take care of their best player. And they almost used Andy Van Slyke a little bit to kind of shove it in Bonds' face. You know, we'll take care of this guy and we're not taking care of you.
Another best of the rest, the postseason. Throughout his baseball career, Bonds has been blamed for his team's failures in the big games.
I think Bonds shouldered more of the blame for that than other players because people like to rag on him and wanted to see him fail.
I do think it was unfair that Bonds got labeled so negatively in that regard.
Bonds pops it up. Unbelievable.
He should not bear the brunt of responsibility because he hasn't won, because there are so many elements that go into a winning baseball team.
He felt this pressure. You know, he wanted to be great so badly that it only reminded him that he wasn't reaching the level he expected for himself.
Goodbye, home run Bonds.
In 2002, after batting a dismal 196 with 1 home run in 5 postseasons, Bonds exploded.
Bonds. First World Series at bat, home run Bonds. That is crushed. 8th home run of this postseason.
4 of those homers were hit against the Angels in Bonds' first World Series. Up 3 games to 2, the Giants were ahead 5-0 entering the bottom of the 7th. Redemption seemed at hand.
9 outs away in Game 6, up 5 runs.
Smacked in the right. It's a 1-run game. And the Anaheim Angels have come all the way back and lead it 6-5.
And then the next night, John Lackey beat them in the 7th game of the World Series. That says as much about Barry Bonds' career as anything else. It wasn't him pitching that night.
if the Giants had won in 7, we would be still talking about the greatest performance ever by one player in one World Series.
He was waiting for that World Series celebration to really let go, and it never came. And I remember afterward he said, this whole time I had been praying that I would get to play in a World Series. I should have been praying that I could win the World Series.
Certainly it had to be a crusher for Barry Bonds to get that close and to go home.
Bringing up Barry.
When people say, look at Barry Bonds, he's a horrible guy, I do say, what do you expect? Look at how the guy was raised before you just say, oh, he's a horrible human being.
As the son of All-Star Giants outfielder Bobby Bonds and the godson of Hall of Famer Willie Mays, Barry Bonds learned early that it's okay to abuse the privileges of stardom.
Barry Bonds was raised watching his dad, watching Willie Mays, the way they treated people. The way if you wanted a cup of coffee, you could get a clubhouse guy to give it to you in 5 seconds. The way if you walk into a store and they say, oh, Mr. Bonds, we'll give you 60% off that suit. You say, I want 80% off, and you get it. You know, he learned from this very early age that athletic stardom comes with entitlement.
I think that he was absolutely brought up in the jock culture values of the clubhouse. You intimidate, you bully, and that's not enough to win. You must also dominate and leave your enemy in the dust.
It's so much more Playboy than it is Disney. He never had someone saying, you can't treat people that way. It was just the opposite. It was, you should treat people that way. If you want to be great, treat people like dirt. That's what he learned from his dad. That's what he learned from Willie Mays. There's no denying that.
Did reason number 5 help convince you? If not, here's reason number 4. The pen is mightier than the bat.
There was a tremendous resentment on his part that he was not part of the national consciousness.
It's kind of a dirty secret in the media. We're not supposed to base our opinions on how players treat us, but it's human nature, and that's what the media does.
Everyone would just basically leave me alone. I just want to play baseball here.
We can react about baseball questions, or we don't have a conversation.
There's no need to address anything other than baseball. That's what I do, play baseball.
Bonds' unwillingness, or perhaps inability, to get along with the media has cost him untold credit in the bank of baseball history.
He's done it. He has become the first man in the history of the game to hit as many as 400 home runs and steal as many as 400 bases.
Bonds is the first player to go 400-400. The he gets on sports pages 5D, 60, 70. It's front page nowhere. He's furious about it.
An even more glaring media snub occurred in 1999.
People forget when the writers and the fans selected the All-Century team. Ken Griffey Jr. was on it, and Barry Bonds was not.
Sometimes I wonder what Bonds must have been thinking. There was some outcry that Roberto Clemente and Frank Robinson, neither of them made the team. But where was the outrage for the omission of Bonds? Where was the outrage? Through the 90s, he doubled the number of stolen bases that Griffey had. His home run rate was higher. Bonds beat him in slugging percentage. Bonds beat him in on-base percentage.
If I am Barry Bonds, I'm going to be at my end of the rope as far as wondering what I need to do to get the acknowledgement of what I have meant to this game.
And this is kind of the irony of it all, because now everybody's, oh my God, what's going to happen to all our precious numbers? Well, if you really cared that much about numbers, Barry should have been carrying the banner of baseball the whole time. So it wasn't a meritocracy. It really had to do with kissing butt, and kissing the butt of sports writers.
The summer of '98.
Swung on, belted.
Barry Bonds sat on the sidelines in '98 and watched McGuire and Sosa go after it, game by game, home run by home run.
Breaking. Sosa the pitch. And Sosa.
Mark hitting 70 home runs and lifting his son up at home plate. They stopped the game and they gave him a car or whatever they gave him, and they paraded him around the field, and it was just like the greatest moment. I'll never forget that.
We come out of the summer of 1998, the most spectacular baseball summer in our lifetime. Here was Barry Bonds, you know, in a shadow, in a corner.
He watches the '98 season unfold and is perhaps disillusioned by seeing McGuire hailed as the savior of the game.
Bonds never got that kind of attention. I think part of it was his rage at not being included in that sentence, McGuire and Sosa, Mark and Sammy. Sosa McGuire, Sosa McGuire. There was never Sosa McGuire in Bonds. I think he felt that that was a motivation. I'm gonna get to that level. I'm gonna show people that I'm as good or I'm the best ever. I'm better than McGuire, I'm better than Sosa.
Denied for years the headlines he had earned on the field, Bonds emerged in the years after the summer of '98 as a new player, bent on breaking down the barriers that had kept him from his rightful place at the top of baseball's pantheon of greatness.
I can understand what Barry Bonds was thinking at the end of the 1998 season. Here, these two guys, clearly inferior players to him, are getting this attention, getting this credit for having saved baseball.
Barry Bonds got cheated. He deserved the hype.
McGuire and Sosa are going crazy. Bonds is seeing this happen. He's furious about it, enraged about it. Barry Bonds was simply angry about what was going on.
Barry must have felt betrayed by the game. How could they have let this red-headed meatball become Mr. Baseball when he, for so many years, had been toiling so hard and being so great?
With 3 strong reasons in the books, here now is reason number 2. The intentional walk.
Intentionally walked for the 51st time this season.
I'm not letting Barry Bonds beat me. I'll pitch to everybody else. I'm not pitching to Barry.
As Bonds drew ever closer to the blessed home run trinity of Aaron, Ruth, and Mays, he received more walks per at-bat than any player in any season in the history of the game.
I mean, they just wanted to come in and just say, you know what? The game plan starts with walking Barry Bonds. We don't even want to put a pitch to him. We don't even want to deal with him. To me, that's not the essence of competition. The essence of competition is we're going to challenge him. And if he hits a home run, he hits a home run. That's what happens with great players.
1 pitch. Cardinals pitch to him, and Barry Bonds makes him pay.
200 intentional walks. It's ridiculous.
And his daughter's in the stands. Please pitch to my daddy.
It's almost as if they've invented something new for baseball. It's called the Bonds. You know, the guy got a Bonds last night. Oh, what was that? Well, the Bonds is when the catcher goes like this.
Barry Bonds was going into the clubhouse in between bats. Willie Mays is in there saying, what is going on here?
And he said, I have to hit so much in the cage because I never swing. I take intentional walks, I never swing. And because he had to hit so much during the game, when he wasn't at the plate, he got a bad back.
Okay, you walk somebody when first base is open, but they walk him with bases loaded.
And look at this. With the bases loaded, they're going to force in a run with an intentional walk.
I've never seen this. I just thought that violated the spirit of competition in a way that I found offensive.
There was just no excuse for not pitching to Bonds, and they're just doing it because out of spite they don't want to see a guy swing the bat.
There were opposing managers who hate him, who say, I can't stand the guy. Screw him. Walk him.
He said, you know what, I used to hate to come to the ballpark to think, they're just going to walk me tonight. And I think to a point that would be very frustrating.
Barry Bonds should be frustrated by the intentional walks. It would drive you crazy. You get paid to hit. You love to hit. The guy loves to hit.
He told Maddox, he said, if you pitch to me, I won't steal. He said, if you walk me, I'm going to steal.
Lance Armstrong.
Lance Armstrong in France is accused every single year of doping. He is probably as suspected in that country of cheating as Barry is in our country.
Yet the media and the public measure Bonds and Armstrong by different yardsticks.
Lance Armstrong, American icon. Barry Bonds, American villain.
Americans respond with outrage whenever we read another report by a French newspaper that Lance Armstrong was caught doping, and we say, well, wait till he tests positive first. The same rules don't seem to apply here for Barry Bonds.
If you were Barry Bonds, you do have to look around a little bit and say, why only me? I do think there has been a difference in the coverage, and Barry Bonds could point to that to some degree.
This difference in coverage has only added to Bonds' frustration.
All of y'all, in a story or whatever, have lied. Should you have asterisk behind your name?
As we and the media wrote about this more, that he felt like we were trying to take something away from him. To have him be the focal point and draw the disdain of so much of this controversy It really is not fair, and I think that's angered him.
Because it has not been proven in a court of law, it has not been proven through a drug test. We have to look at him and we have to assume that he's innocent of using steroids, because that's how the legal system in our country works. I think it would be a very dangerous thing to overlook that.
You know, sometimes we have a slam dunk case, other times it's an uphill climb, but everyone deserves a defense. Hopefully we've challenged you to take a look at Barry Bonds in a different light. I'm Brian Kenny. Thanks for watching.